Hello, and welcome to the party. Today, I am very excited to be bringing you the very first episode of In Case You Missed It. So, for those of you who didn't see my previous video, this is a really straightforward format. Essentially, it's short form kind of updates as it relates to nerd, geek, gaming, developer culture from the previous week. So, everything we're going to be talking about in today's episode are things that were discussed and brought up from April 3rd to 8th, Monday through Saturday last week. I'm going to be continuously posting these every single week on Monday moving forward. So if you liked what you see, or if you stumbled across this video and you want to support, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. Now, before we jump into this, all of the sources and articles relating to everything that we discussed in this episode and future episodes will be listed in the description below. So, if you want the full details revolving around the stories that I'm talking about, please not only go check out those details, but also make sure to give some love and credit to the original authors, because these things take time and a lot of skill to put together. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the very first topic, which is Lucasfilms and Disney Plus recently announcing and showcasing their timeline for TV shows and movies within the Star Wars universe that are going to be hitting Disney Plus. Shows and movies such as Star Wars Visions Volume 2, Star Wars Young Jedi, Ahsoka, Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Andor Season 2, Star Wars The Acolyte, Lando, and a few others. This is really great to see, especially since, you know, Star Wars has kind of had some highs and lows over recent years. So if this is something that you're interested in, link is in the description below. Go ahead and check it out. Moving on from there, let's go ahead and talk about the recent release of Super Mario Bros. There is definitely a split in terms of not only opinions, but critics and audiences as it relates to this movie. At the time of this recording, Rotten Tomatoes has the Super Mario Bros. Movie at 56%, right? So that's what critics are rating this movie. However, audiences have scored this movie at 96%. That is an overwhelming gap in terms of opinions, and I think this is really important. What's going on here? Is it good? Is it bad? It leaves me curious in terms of what the disconnect is. I want to know from you as well. Have you seen it? Did you love it? Do you understand what critics are saying about this movie, or do you think it's just absolutely nonsense? I'm always going to have just kind of like a soft spot for these types of movies. Not only that, I do think that the Mario Bros. Franchise, at least as it relates to film and TV, hasn't had a lot of justice given to it outside of some old school classics. And so seeing this hit theaters in kind of like a modern but also classic art style is something that really tugs on my heartstrings. Moving on to some gaming news, Dying Light is going to be free to download on PC until April 13th. And I think this is really amazing. Playing Dying Light, in the past, it's definitely a title that I think more people should pick up and give a shot. The gameplay is pretty engaging, and although a lot of people have considered this game just okay by mechanic standards and engagement, I really enjoyed it, and I think especially with it being free, it's worth the download if it's something that you've ever been interested in. Continuing on with gaming, Blizzard has announced that Overwatch 2 Season 4 is going to be hitting the floor on April 11th. This new season is going to be coming with an introduction of a new hero by the name of Lifeweaver, a support class. The patch also includes changes to Reinhardt, Sigma, Cassidy, Sombra, Ana, Brigitte, Mercy, and Moira. Buffs and nerfs are hitting the platform all around, and there's some changes as it relates to competitive and a couple other things as well. Again, as always, the link to the full patch notes is in the description, and if you want to know more about what's coming down the line, I highly recommend that you go check out that article for all of the details associated with that patch. If there are still any Five Nights at Freddy fans still out there, Universal Studios has recently announced the release date for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is going to be hitting theaters on October 27th of 2023, so this year. This is really great news for this fan base because if anybody's been following this, the film has been in development off and on since 2015, leaving many to even wonder if it's going to be released, made, produced in the first place. This is a film that I think a lot of the Five Nights at Freddy fan base has been wanting for a very long time. Even though the game itself is very simple, many I think would agree that the lore behind the game is actually really good. So seeing that all play out may connect some dots and strings the community has been wanting and waiting for a very long time. If you haven't heard or played it yet, God of War Ragnarok came out with a Game Plus mode, which adds quite a few new features to the title itself. This is really great because I personally believe story mode adventure games, single player adventure games like God of War that are so incredibly well built definitely deserve to have some features in its title that encourage replayability. Some things that you can expect to see from this update are things like new equipment, higher level cap, new enchantments, and more. This is enough for me to go back and not only play the game, but also play it through from start to finish, just to get that experience all over again. This makes me really happy. On to Diablo 4 news, because there's just something to talk about as it relates to Diablo 4 every single day, every single week, it feels like at this point. The developers have finally released some content and footage as it relates to the end game of Diablo 4. The video does definitely have the community split, some saying it looks great for a start, others are losing their mind saying that it's not enough. Here are my thoughts, and I'm going to make a video about this later this week. I think in terms of the footage they showed and the things that they discussed for an overall structure, especially as it relates to the start of endgame development, it looks fine. I'm excited to see what they build and add to the end game over time. I think that really, truly, we won't know what the end game or the overall Diablo 4 experience is going to be like until we get the full title in our hands. That said, what are your thoughts? Do you think that the end game looks like trash, or are you really excited to see what the developers do with it? Let me know. Something that I was totally unaware of was that Xbox consoles apparently had the ability to run third-party emulators, so their customers or people who bought the Xbox consoles were able to play older titles from PlayStation 2 and GameCube. However, Microsoft has essentially put a stop to this, so you are no longer able to download these third-party emulators that are allowing you to play these older titles. Is this the right thing for a major corporation to do, right? Many believe that they bought the console and they're giving money, to Microsoft, and so they should have the ability to play however they want, wherever they want, whenever they want. This no doubt furthers the age-old console war debate that many people are kind of tired of at this point. Not only that, but it also shows that we have a very long way to go as it relates to preserving some of our favorite titles that we enjoyed growing up. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that Microsoft had every right to kind of kaput the third-party emulation that their console was able to provide to its customers? Or do you think that major corporations have no business in kind of meddling with their product or products once it's been purchased by a consumer? Outside of that, that's pretty much everything that I needed to cover with you today. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for tuning in to the first episode of In Case You Missed It. And that being said, I will catch you all later. And yeah, I hope everybody has a good one. See ya!